Tony Capasso is an all-American athlete turned venture partner, fellow podcast host, and now CEO of an AI company in stealth mode. Tony's journey spans from leading growth at global firms like Andela and Octane to investing in the future at ATX Venture Partners to building companies of his own. What makes Tony remarkable isn't just the titles, but his heart, curiosity, and resilience he carries from the soccer field to the boardroom. He's a leader who believes in possibility, people, and pushing boundaries, and I can't wait for you to hear his story. Please enjoy my time with Tony. Hey, y'all. Let's go there. Thanks for getting this studio for us.
I love it. I love the fact that you could come here.
Yeah, I'm really appreciative. So we are in a new studio thanks to Tony. And I also owe this podcast in great part to you because you introduced me to Stacy at Your Media, and this would not be possible without her and her amazing team.
Stacy is very amazing. And I knew that when you said that you were going to embark on this journey of having these conversations and sharing them with the world, I was like, you got to talk to Stacy. I just love what she's about, what her agency's about. And I just thought you guys would really connect on that level. So I'm glad that it worked out.
Yeah. And you're such a pro and your podcasts are so good. And I hope people go out and listen to both Position and Revenue Dilemma because they're great. And you've just been a huge asset to me. Although it did make me laugh when you were like, how many episodes have you done? You're not messing around.
You're now the expert. I was thinking about that coming in. I'm
that's
like,
not true.
Whatever Carla says, I'm going to do because she has a lot more experience than I do with this.
No, that's not true. You're always lapping me. You already have some stuff that you're lapping me on right now. I'm like paying attention to all these details. But okay, Tony, do you remember how we met?
Oof. Like the moment or
not the moment?
I mean, because I'm
not going to do that to you.
Well,
do you remember who introduced us? What the circumstances were?
Well, tell me, because I think I do, but I might get it wrong. Tell me.
So you know why you don't know is because we have so many intersection points.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so Zeppelin introduced us.
Okay, that's where I was going to go first.
Yeah.
Because he's really great at making those kind of connections, but we do have many other intersection points. So,
yeah. And so when we met, it was super fascinating to me because I was like, wait a minute, you're Canadian? I'm Canadian. Wait a minute. You got called for that job? I got called for that job. And it was like, wait, you were at UT? I was at UT.
Wait, you have immigrant parents? I have immigrant parents.
Totally. You're Italian, I'm Latina. Like it was like, there were just like all these weird like correlations. And we were just different enough that it was, we were interesting to each other, but we also really got each other. I mean, right down to your goalie when you were in college was somebody that I grew up with.
Yeah.
Which is bananas. Yeah. Like we've known each other since kindergarten. But you're somebody that I've always really, really admired and really just clicked with. And I've always felt like we could riff off of one another. And so I'm so excited to be able to finally do this with you.
I'm excited as well because you're right. I love our walks and talks and all the things. So I love it.
Yeah. So in essence, what we're going to do today is one of those, but people are going to listen in.
Yeah.
If you're down.
Yeah, that's great. It does make me think like it'd be interesting to get a microphone that you could, have on a canopy overhead and just walk and talk.
I do. Yeah. I actually, Stacey and I have talked about it. I actually do want to do it. So if you're willing to be my guinea pig, because we bought mics for it.
You did.
So we may be out of breath because we always take the hills.
Yeah.
But it'd be fun to do one of our walk and talks. So for our audience, just so that they know, both Tony and I are really into fitness and really into movement. And so we both agreed that when we would meet, we'd hike. And Tony always makes me take the hills with him, which is great. Always a good workout. Okay, so Tony, who are you in the world right now? I mean, you're a CEO. Tell us more about what you're doing.
Yeah, about a year ago, I came together with a couple of co-founders to start a company, and the company's currently in stealth mode. So we're not talking a lot about the company publicly, but what I will say is we're a company that's focused on AI for revenue organizations and for enterprises that want to drive growth. And interestingly, as I came together with my co-founders, two of the three co-founders that I have, we'd actually known each other for almost 20 years. One of them was on the board of an organization in which I was the executive director / business manager of a youth sports organization in Austin in 2006.
A nonprofit.
A nonprofit, yeah. Huh. So I've known them for a long time. My third co-founder, our CTO and technical co-founder, we had just gotten to know each other, but have many friends in common. But they came to me with a prototype of a product. I listened to the thing and thought it was super interesting technology and prototype. And I looked at the team and I sort of took a step back and I said, look, this is the right time with this tech, the right team with this group around the table, and the right problem domain, because this is the problem I've been working on my whole career. and the problem I'm so passionate about. So I'm in and made that decision within 24 hours. And within 48 hours, I was on a plane to Whitefish, Montana to work out with my co-founders how we were going to get this company off the ground. But I still had some questions about the real problem we were going to go after and the real problem we were going to solve. And so I'm going to share more of that with the world when the time is right. But I think we've landed in a time and place where we have technology that can help us accomplish great things. And I think we're focused on a problem that is very meaningful and needs to get solved. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm super excited
Yeah.
for you because from the moment I met you, I was like, oh man, this guy would make an epic CEO. And I remember saying it to you. And at the time you were like, nope, not for me. I'm fine where I am. I'm enjoying my scope right now. I have no desire to be a CEO. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember those conversations. I wonder why I was in that headspace at the time. Because I absolutely love the seat I'm in right now.
Yeah.
I actually, there's never been a seat that I've been more excited to be in, I think, than this one. And it's been the most fun year of my life, honestly, in so many ways, which we could talk more about. And usually people qualify that, but it's also been the most challenging. And so, but no, actually just pure amazing fun. I know more challenging times are coming. I guess that's the beauty of being in stealth mode. But yeah, I wonder what headspace I was in when we were having that conversation. And can I share on that maybe? Because I don't know, because I don't remember the moment, but I have a sense of maybe why that's the case. And it's interesting because I was at a company called Bizarre Voice, right, in the very early days. And this was at a time that was probably around 2012, 2013. The company had just IPO'd. I was there in the first 50 employees. And I was ready to move on to get my first VP of sales job. And at the time, and I remember that, as happens in these companies, when you're kind of going through this process, you kind of run the gauntlet of the exec team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of convince you to stay or have a conversation of what we can do and all those kind of things, which you really appreciate and are very flattering and oftentimes works,
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely worked on me before to kind of, see that you're valued there. But I had an executive fly in that asked me a really important question at the time, which was, do you want your boss's job? And at the time I was like, no, I don't want that job. And he's like, well, that's the problem. Like, that's why you want to go and do something else, because you don't see the path here. And so I think it's really important, and this is an important part of leadership, is how the job looks on you, how you carry yourself in that job, how you show other people what it means to have that role in that position, inspires a whole generation to go do that thing, right? And if you don't carry it well, or if it doesn't look good on you, or even if just the situation at the company means that those other roles just don't feel or look compelling at the time, which at the time it didn't feel that way to me. It felt like I needed to go somewhere else to get stretched. So I think maybe I might have been in a time and place where that role didn't look good to me, in a sense, like it maybe looked or felt like something that, why would I want to go do that? Or maybe but now being in the seat, again, I couldn't be more thrilled to have this responsibility, essentially, which is really all it is.
Yeah.
But makes me think of that example as to, sometimes the thing that holds us back is just our projection or picture of what we think that thing will be, which might not even be that at all.
Right.
Yeah.
What made you say that in that moment when you got asked that question at Bizarre Voice?
To be clear, that organization was incredible to me in my career, and incredible growth, all kinds of opportunities to grow. But in that moment, that role didn't look like the role that I wanted. And it looked limiting to me for some reason. It just didn't feel like it was.
You couldn't see yourself in it.
Couldn't see myself in it. And again, there's incredible people there. It was an incredible organization, but this leader helped me understand that it's important that the next role, the next opportunity, that the way the leaders carry themselves in those roles and the way that those roles give opportunity for people is important, inspiring people to want them.
Yeah.
So I've actually said to my leaders in organizations that I've been a part of, is this leadership is a massive responsibility, not only because you're here to help the company grow and do all the things, but you're here to inspire the next generation to want to do what you do. Because if there are great leaders out there that don't want your job, they're not going to take it down the road.
Yeah.
And that's going to be someone else's loss.
That's a problem.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're reminding me of a story of mine where I was at a company and I was promised a promotion that I didn't get. And a friend and colleague of mine that was a CEO of another company, and we shared a coach. So he knew I was kind of struggling with this. And I'd finally just given up on it. And I was like, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. I'm fine. Like, I'm secure in myself. I'm doing fine, blah, blah, blah. And he said, but what about this woman? And he named somebody on my team. And he was like, she's watching you. What about her? What are you showing her? And I was like, then it was really confronting because he made me realize, like, if I didn't go fight for it, I was actually showing her that, like, you might as well just acquiesce. You might as well just not try.
Yeah.
So kind of along the same lines
Yes.
of what you're saying, he was like, you got to go do this. So it creates a path for her. And sure enough, she was my backfill when I left the company. So he was right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an amazing story. I agree totally.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you're having the time of your life.
Yeah.
What makes that the case?
For me personally, and we've talked a lot about the importance of like growth and being stretched and sort of being challenged and how important that challenge is to growth. Being in this seat every single day, I'm just challenged and stretched to do things that I've never done before, to think about things more creatively or solve problems in ways I haven't solved them before. So every single day just poses lots of interesting challenge, and I love that, and new and interesting things that I haven't done previously. At the same time, there's a set of things that I do every single day in this role that I've also done for a long time and do pretty well. And so it's this nice match, at least at this stage and scale and size that we are right now, where they kind of say like the importance to getting into a flow state is that you have this balance of challenge and skill, right?
Yeah.
That are somewhat in alignment. So you want that challenge to be just far out in front of your skill enough that it pulls you in that direction, but not so far out there that you fall flat on your face and you can't do it. So I feel like we're at a stage, size, scale, and place where it's a good match for the skill set that I have, but also plenty of things to go work on and stretch and grow into. And now I'm thinking about, how do I keep growing and evolving so that challenge doesn't beat me, right? That it doesn't outkick the coverage in a sense, and I end up not being able to keep up with it. So that's the thing I constantly think about and worry about. But right now it's all about, finding our early design partners, product market fit, making sure that we have the best people around the table working on the product. So that challenge will come, but it just feels really good in the moment. And the other thing that I would say as well, and I think you've shared this a little bit with you professionally as well, is there's a lot of autonomy in this role. Being in this position, I can make very quick decisions with the team and take action in ways that when I was in larger organizations just took way more time and was way more painful. So that's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Quickly. And the other thing is, one of the things that I said to my co-founders as I agreed to come on and start the company with them is I said, okay, I'm in. I love you guys. Love the problem. Love what we're going to go do. But I have one request. And it might actually be a demand. I was like, no board meetings, no ops reviews for like 3 years. Got it?
Wow, that is a power move. That is a power move. And you know what? So smart.
I was like, I want to build product. I want to talk to customers.
Yeah.
And I want to solve this problem. That's
Yeah.
what I want to go do. And I'd come out of a set of experiences along the way that we had talked about where I spent a lot more time not working on that. And I was like, that's what I really want to go do.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier,
Yeah.
about work versus actually
Yeah.
just doing
Yeah.
the actual work itself.
Yeah. We look at the data, we have our board meetings and we do all the things, but our approach to them is very much from a founder builder mindset, which is we're here for customers and for the success of the mission and the goal and to build, the things we need to build to accomplish that.
Okay, because that was going to be my next
Yeah.
question is how did you manage your investors in that? Like, how did they respond?
I mean, again, there's just a reality to, doing the right things and having good hygiene in the business. And the reality is if you're going to do something well, you're going to want to measure and track the data. You're going to want to put the strategy and the plan together. You want to communicate to the stakeholders. So all those things are going to happen, but it's just the mindset of what are we here to do, right? Yeah. And that I wanted to establish right up front. We're here to build. We're here to serve our customers in the market. We're here to help them accomplish the goal. We're not here to talk to each other all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to come back to something you said. So you said, you found this kind of sweet spot where you can like hit the ground running and contribute because you're leaning into your strengths, but you're also growing yourself. And it's fascinating because whenever I've given somebody career advice, I've typically said when they're thinking about a change, keep one thing constant. Like change one thing, but keep one thing constant. Yeah. So whether that's the function, whether that's the industry, whatever it is, keep something constant so you have something to anchor to that so you can hit the ground running and then stretch yourself on the other things. And you're doing exactly that. How do you make sure that you're growing? What do you do to invest in yourself from a growth standpoint, in particular as a CEO now?
Yeah. Well, the main thing I've always done throughout my career, and even when I played soccer professionally or for the national team and into my professional career, is, and for example, my professional career in technology, I've never been in the same industry twice or the same size and stage of company twice, right? And that's been by design, not by accident, right? So I've been, 2 to 10 million, 5 to 150, 0 to 40, 225 to a billion. Now I'm at, minus to 1,
Yeah.
0 to 1. And so, but with that, and then I've been in e-commerce and ed tech and fulfillment and logistics and so on right now in a space really focused on AI. So that just gives me the gift of growth because it forces growth, right? And I actually had a CEO that is a mentor of mine that we have dinners, maybe once or twice a year, sometimes quarterly, who basically said, Tony, the one thing you're always going to have to understand is you have to force growth in an organization. And I think what he means by that, and what I've taken that is you've got to put tension in the system to get the growth. It doesn't naturally happen on its own because the predisposition is going to be to status quo or to keep things even. So again, on a personal level, I shake it up.
Yeah. How do you shake it up? Give me some examples of how you put tension in the system.
Yeah. Well, in an organization, so on a personal level, I try to expose myself to things that I'm not good at, things that I don't know, things that, again, are going to challenge me to rise to the occasion, essentially, right? Or fail or fall. When it comes to the kinds of things I do in an organization is one of the things I have this little scorecard that I keep, mental scorecard that I keep every single day when I drive home from work or walk out of my home office or whatever version of it is, which is, did I get the balance right on the scorecard of tension in the system and support or letting what's supposed to happen. And I know that part of my job, even if it's sort of like a coach on the sidelines who's yelling at the ref about a bad call, but really all they're trying to do is get their team fired up and let them know that like this is important and we're intense. Yeah. There are moments where I just have to ask a hard question or shake the tree a little bit because things are feeling complacent, ask for a deadline that out of nowhere. So when is this going to get done by?
Yeah.
Wait, you said that would take a week. Why is that a week?
Yeah.
And so I'll give an example. I was in a management team or, leadership team meeting of ours, and we were having these discussions, and I noticed in 2 or 3 of them in a row, it was like everything's going to happen in a week. And so I just asked the team, I was like, why is everything taking a week? I mean, I don't know a lot about building product directly as an engineering leader, of course. So it's going to take what it's going to take. But I know enough to know not everything takes a week.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Why can't something get done in 24 hours?
Yeah.
Or why not in 2 days? Why always a week? And so that's just a version of me. And I have to take some risk because I have empathy for the fact that I don't know how to do their job. Yeah. But part of my job is to ask the question. And I was just saying, help me understand because I'm hearing this. And one of the things I had a great CEO at Octane ShipStation, Nathan Jones, who had everybody on the exec team read the book about Parkinson's Law. I don't know if you've read or are familiar with Parkinson's Law. No. But the basic premise of Parkinson's Law is that work will expand to the time allotted to it, right? Essentially. So this book does a good job of unpacking the research as to why that's actually the case. And in particular looks at military organizations and bloat, military organizations and or political bureaucratic organizations and how that happens. So that's an area that I focus on a lot is not letting work just expand to the time allotted to it. So that is a version of I have to pay attention to putting tension in the system to ask the hard questions about how things perhaps could happen sooner.
You and I just figured out something else that you and I share.
What's that?
So you and I both do this. And we challenge limiting beliefs within an organization. Yeah. Because the 1 week thing is a limiting belief. Yeah. It's just a cultural limiting belief. Yeah. It's like the 1 hour meeting or the 30-minute meeting. Like, why is this a 30-minute meeting? Why do we have to do this meeting recurring? Yeah. Some of my favorite phrases are what makes that the case and what stands in the way. And so I totally agree, just kind of challenging those limiting beliefs because sometimes they're just old assumptions. Yeah. Even if it's a new organization, they get created. So you have to kind of look out for them. Yeah. I recently was with an organization and they were saying something had to take 3 years. And I was like, 3 years? Yeah. Yeah. Like what makes that the case?
We're all going to be pumpkins in 3 years.
Yeah, totally. Like I may not be here in 3 years. And so, yeah, it was just my first response was what makes it the case.
I love that. I love that.
And what stands in the way of it being, 6 months.
Well, here's a live example is I have a new engineering leader in my organization who I love what he's brought to the org, but his first question is, if someone brings up what we can't do or how long it will take, okay, that's fine. What can we do? Yeah. And so what can we do? And I love that, right? So okay, we'll agree that this is too hard or too long, but what can we do? Yeah, what can we do right now? Yeah. And let's just get that done and let's make steps towards that bigger thing. And I love that. Like I love that psychology in the organization. So that's a lot of what I think about. And again, some of it is putting tension, but a lot of it is also cultivating and noticing what you want. as the other side of that. And I think that's a little bit of a lost art in leadership sometimes, is cultivating the things that come from noticing. And
Say
so,
more about that.
well, I have this little thing that I'll do from time to time where, I can't necessarily see or talk to everybody all day, but I'll leave them an audio message about something that I noticed. And it even happened in the office the other day where we had these monitors that we had ordered, because we're now in an industrious and we're like a viable startup that has a space, and, and I was getting a little concerned about, it was looking a little janky in there because there were some half open boxes and there was some other stuff lying around, and it had to get cleaned up. And for like the last 2 or 3 Saturdays, I was like, I need to go in on a Saturday and just clean all this up and get the final monitors up, and so it can be a proper workspace, And I came in this week after traveling Monday, Tuesday, and it was all put together. And I was like, who did this? And the person who was in the office sort of stood up. I was like, this is amazing. Thank you for doing this. I've been thinking about this. And the fact that you just took the initiative to get this all in place and get this sorted, I just appreciate that. So it was just a small moment to just recognize, but I could have just noticed that everything was put back together and go about my day.
Yeah.
But I thought, hey, here's an opportunity to recognize, someone taking some initiative to just get us in the right headspace, very small. But sometimes I'll leave an audio message for an engineer who worked really hard on shipping or releasing something, and just let them know that I noticed. I saw how hard they worked. But I got this actually from a soccer coach that I played for, a guy by the name of Bob Gansler. He was the U.S. men's national team coach for soccer that brought the U.S. men's national team to the World Cup in Italy in 1990. Wow. He coached in the MLS for a long time, very successful at all levels. He's kind of an iconic coach in the U.S. And I played for him on a team called the Milwaukee Rampage in 1997. And he was so simultaneously so hard and so good to play for, because not only did he create conditions and training that were extremely tough and always super intense, but you always had to be on. There were 8 a.m. practices, and you always had to be on the whole time because he was noticing everything. And I remember a very specific time where he was looking in one direction, and I think I'd been out late the night before. I was kind of struggling through practice and hoping, and soccer players have a way of, if that's the case, kind of just skating by and just using your skill in that moment, maybe not running as hard. And I was behind him out of his peripheral vision. And all of a sudden I didn't make the run I was supposed to make. And he turned around and said, hey, that run. And I thought, oh, he got me. How did he get me? How did he see me? I was trying to hide in that moment. And in that moment, I just learned the value of, like, I know he's always seeing everything. Therefore, I better be on all the time, because even when I'm not in his view, he's seeing me.
Wow.
And so that's one version of it. And then as a leader, you go, okay, what am I noticing? Because people will pay attention to what I notice. And so I can notice things that aren't working, and I can notice things that need to be improved. And I can make a comment about noticing something taking too long, but I can also notice what is working, what we want more of. And so I tend to try to err more on the side of that. But this is a case of this personal scorecard where I go home at night and I'm like, okay, did I get the balance of that right?
Yeah.
The tension in the system versus the cultivation and the positive side of that, right? Because you can get that balance horribly wrong.
Yeah, totally. And by the way, that noticing goes both ways.
Yeah.
Employees are noticing what you're doing and vice versa. It's funny. I have a friend that's in media. She's CEO of a media company. And she says, Carla, everyone knows everything. And it's kind of along the lines of what you're saying, everyone knows everything. So what you're doing, whether you're being seen or not, everyone knows.
Yeah.
It's just kind of energetically, you're going to carry it. People are going to know. By the way, I'm a huge fan of the voice memo, as you know. I send them to you all the time, but huge fan of that. Can't stand email. But okay, so I want to talk about what makes you such an awesome salesperson, because before I met you, multiple people were telling me, do you know Tony Capasso? You need to know Tony Capasso. And it was like a combination of, like, you guys need to work together. You guys are awesome. You guys would be 2 peas in a pod. Tony's the best salesperson I've ever met. Tony's the best leader I've ever met. Tony cares about people the way that you do. What makes you such a great salesperson?
I'm coming from a place of, I want to help people get done whatever it is that they need to get done to see the success of the results that they want to see. That's the coach in me, right? So I'm coming from a place of, what is my role in all of this to help what's supposed to happen, to help someone succeed ultimately. And I think people can feel that energy. And I have a close mentor, I would say, Stephen Tomlinson. I think you probably know Stephen.
Yeah, of course.
He talks a lot about in sales the importance of coming with generous intent.
Yeah.
And
by the way, I think that's true for marketing as well.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. That's the door I try to walk through, because it's the door that honestly I feel the most comfortable in and feels the most authentic and most real. So I think it just starts there. And then when you're in that place, you're naturally more curious. You're smarter about how you're putting pieces together because again, your intent is all in the right place. So I just really think it starts with your intent, and doing things with people, and not against people, right? So I think that's a form of leadership as well. But it's like, how are we doing this together? And I think that's in terms of sales and bringing deals and relationships together, you have to create an environment that it feels like we're in this together, we're doing this together. So as we're working through procurement or working on this issue internally or trying to get a stakeholder involved, does it feel like we're in it together? Or is it I'm trying to do something to that organization for our benefit?
Yeah.
So I would say it really starts there. The rest of it is really just academic. It's like sales process and things you should do and whatnot. But I think it starts with that intent. And then if people feel like they're in it together and you're coming from the right place, usually things go pretty easily, because the other thing is I don't align with things that I don't fully believe in and don't work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't be selling something that didn't work or I didn't fully believe in. So that kind of makes it easy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also never heard anyone speak ill of you. Like every time someone says your name, it's like, oh my God, Tony's amazing, or Tony's been my mentor for years, or I look up to him so much, or he's been phenomenal. He's such a talent. It's fascinating because to have the success that you've had and to be as kind as you are, and I want to be careful and say kind, not nice, because there's a difference.
Yeah.
To be as kind as you are, how have you been able to toe the line in terms of the tension that you were speaking of, not being a doormat, achieving the things that you've achieved without being toxic?
I don't know exactly. But what I do know is that I think there's just most people appreciate some amount of directness, amount of authenticity, appreciate the truth, And so I've always tried to say what's on my mind, call it like I see it, and say the truth. And they don't always want to hear what I have to say. And I think of this quote, and let me see if I can get this right, but there's this great graphic that I kind of keep on my computer stored somewhere, of Doc Rivers, who was the coach of the LA Clippers. I can't remember where he's coaching now. And it's something like, average players want to be coached, good players want X, and great players want to be told the truth. And I think that's the case. And so I've had the privilege of working with incredible people at incredible companies. And so these are highly functioning, high integrity people. And so it kind of makes it a lot easier when you're starting there. I haven't had a lot of challenges in that regard. And then if you're giving people that, and then the other thing is, I told you there's a little bit of this trade-off, push and pull of tension versus noticing and cultivation and positivity. And if you're getting that right, you're actually building personal equity. You're building up a bank of that. And sometimes as a leader, you have to spend it. You have to ask something of people in a team that might cause you to debit from that account. And I don't mean anything unethical or not right that they wouldn't do, but ask them to do things that are very uncomfortable or say things that are uncomfortable. So I'm certain of it along the way. People have given me grace on all of that because I've not been perfect in every moment. And oftentimes I go home and be like, why did you show up in the meeting that way? Oh my God, I can't believe you.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm so hard on myself too. Along those lines, have you ever fucked up, Tony? Because I've never, I can't picture you making a mistake, and you've had such an awesome run.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you, look, I've been, when you say, have I messed up, or like, the reality is, on a personal relationship front, I'm sure there are people that I've pissed off along the way or haven't, who don't feel like I've done them right along the way, although I've tried, but I'm sure I've gotten that balance wrong in one case or another. And then when it comes at a company level, like there's been companies where we've had phenomenal growth and great exits and outcomes. And then there's been companies that flatlined, and for 18 months, I couldn't figure out how to get the nose up on the plane. And I said to the CEO, like, I've been trying for 18 months to figure out how to get the nose up on this plane. I can't figure it out. Like maybe someone else should take the baton to go figure this out. And maybe that helps too, because I could approach it the opposite way, is like put my head in the sand and hope no one notices and just keep making everybody annoyed that it's not working versus saying, look, I'm holding my hand up, I need help, or I don't seem to be getting it done, do I? And So
What
yeah,
happened in that case, by the way? In that case where you told the CEO, I've been at it for
yeah.
18 months.
I ended up exiting the company. It was like a 9-month planned transition. So there was a lot of love between me and the CEO and like the company and what we were doing. But I was like, look, we have to grow,
Yeah.
you know, and we've hit a wall and a plateau. And I've been on the road every week for 18 months and I can't figure out how to
Not
turn this
happening.
around. It's not happening.
And did it after you left?
No, but I think it has, you know, the reality is there's a million reasons why things work and don't work, but the reality is I couldn't figure it out in that moment. And so I had to say, like, I think it's time because I don't think I have the answers and maybe someone else does. And for the
Yeah.
benefit of my own equity and the success of this company, maybe someone else should try to figure that out. But again, you know, it's not easy for any of us to get to that place because we're all competitors and we all have belief in
Totally.
ourselves. And so we feel like we can figure it out. But sometimes you look at the situation and you're like, I either need help or maybe I'm not able to figure this out. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've had to do that too. I said to a CEO, if I need to step aside, I'll step aside.
Yeah.
I can't keep doing this. It's a really hard thing to be able to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like you and me that's super competitive. Okay. So we did a study at Dell. I think I've told you this, where we looked at our highest performing executives and sellers. And what we found is there was a very high correlation between athletes, in particular those that played at the collegiate level, and military, service industry, and then interestingly enough, car rental business like Hertz and Enterprise and things like that. You talk a lot about your life as a coach, your life as a player. How has your life as an athlete shaped you as a soccer player?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously that experience just teaches you a lot of things and around, you know, the resilience that you need, you know, the work ethic, the training, the willing to put in the time. So it does a lot for not only your mindset, also your habits. Like I was thinking about it this morning because I got up very, very early to get a workout in and then have a 7:30 a.m. breakfast. And I was like, I think I've been doing this my whole life. Like, I don't think I've ever got up past 5 a.m. my whole life.
Wow.
You know, I was literally thinking about it this morning. I was like, is this normal? Because I was a bit tired today. You and I talked about that. I took my shot at 20 grams of creatine and got on the Stairmaster for 20 minutes again, just to get my body going. But
for those of y'all that are not watching, Tony is jacked.
so anyway, so I think that what it really gives you is just a model for how to approach things, and then a set of habits that basically become your, you know, your jumping off point, your foundation for all the things. So I think there's that. You know, soccer is a team sport and it's 11 on 11. And I think a lot about time and space between people because of, in particular, the sport. It is a sport of time and space. So the more you restrict space, you restrict time and you create more urgency. More space you open up, the slower things are, and you have more time. And so things are a little slower. And so I think about that a lot in the context of working with people in an organization, working with customers, getting deals done. It's all time and space, and how we work with people within that time and space and in relation to each other. So if I'm in a particular position, it's in relation to someone else's position. And so it's interesting because sometimes like someone who hasn't been an athlete in that kind of environment, perhaps, or, you know, they might make a decision in the organization and not understand the ripple effects of certain decisions.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't been in 11 on 11 or some other bigger number, let's say, and learning from those environments, you may not recognize that one little thing that's happening over here actually affects something over here. And let's make sure we've thought that all the way through. That might be okay.
Yeah.
It might be the intended outcome.
But you could be hurting a teammate.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's, you know, that sport in particular has dynamics around it that are particularly helpful. And look, I walked into Bizarre Voice, which was, again, an incredible experience for me. It launched my whole career. Brett is an investor in my company and you know, one of my dearest friends and mentors. And like, I owe my whole career to him. And I could tell you the story about how I got into the company with him. But I walked on the floor of that company in 2007. I thought, I know how to do this because it was this competitive live environment that replicated sport. And whether the company was trying to do it or not, it was doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that helps too. And I think you probably had the same conditions going on at Dell.
I did. It's super fascinating. I had the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I walked in there from the restaurant business and I was like, oh, hot damn.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Like it was just like my eyes lit up. Like everything I've learned up until this point has prepared me for this moment. Okay. Before we move on, I do want to hear the story about how you got to Bizarre Voice, especially because we just had Brett on and he was singing your praises, by the way.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. But I I want to know how coaching women impacted you.
Yeah. Well, it was amazing. I didn't think I could do it. So when I got the call to come be an assistant coach at UT from the head coach. So the head coach was the head women's coach at Notre Dame while I was there as a player on the men's team.
Okay. So that's how it happened.
So that's how it happened. So he knew me as a player, and this is sort of how I am individually. I connected with him in the hallways, and was always very polite to him and respectful and whatnot. And he sort of said, "Hey, here's this guy who was a team captain and All-American, and he's playing professionally. Like maybe he'll want to come coach." So he made the call, and I remember calling the head men's coach who had coached Chris Petroselli in college. So this whole connected family. And I said to Coach Berticelli, I was like, "Coach, do you think I can do this? Like, can I coach women? Like, I have no idea if I can do this." I was 23 years old, like just
you weren't
waning.
You weren't much older than them.
No, not at all, and had never coached females before outside of summer soccer camp, in the summer or something. And he's like, "Yeah, you can. The first decision you have to make is if you want to get into coaching, and that's its own set of decisions. And then, but the rest of it is." Is some nuance. And the main thing that I learned, honestly, of the whole thing, because I had some incredible players. I'm now our kids are friends with each other, like fast
That's
forward
cool.
20, 25 years later, and I'm friends with many of them, is that just what you sort of learned really early is just the way emotions are expressed can be different, but it's the same emotion. So I remember I was in these after season one-on-one team meetings, just in an office that looks like this. And one of the girls on the team had kind of walked through the door for the one-on-one, and she just burst into tears. And the coach turns over, grabs the Kleenex box and just puts it on the table, matter-of-factly, and like she grabs the tissues. And I'm like, she's bawling her eyes out. Like, what is going on? Right.
Yeah.
And then
the coach is like, nothing to fix.
Yeah.
Just
He's
let her
like,
do it.
just here. And I was like, oh, okay. It's the same emotion. She's frustrated and she's anxious. And so she starts tearing up. A guy might punch the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the same emotion expressed differently. That's it. And so you start to learn that. And then you start to learn also how to communicate slightly differently. So, in a men's team, you might be, someone's not running as hard as they should or getting to do the thing. And you'd be like, "Hey, get on your bike and get over there, do this and that." You'd be yelling at them. And then I had to learn how to say, "Hey, is everything okay? You just don't seem like yourself today." It'd be really like, you normally go get that ball, don't you? But like, why aren't you doing it today?
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on? Are you okay?
Yeah.
And so it's just like a different way of just asking the question. But then at the same time, it is definitely player by player. So I think Mia Hamm is sort of famous for saying something like, treat me like a woman, but coach me like a man, essentially.
Yeah.
So don't go easy on me. Like I can handle it and like all the things. So you definitely have all of that as well. But I just had to learn that there's just some slight different expressions of emotion or slight different nuances and things. But at the end of the day, I will tell you that the top 3 or 5 players at the University of Texas that I coach are as good or better than the top 3 or 5 players I ever played with. Now, they might have not the same physical abilities, just directly physical ability, but their commitment to the sport, their technical ability, like all the things. So the highest level is the highest level.
Wow.
With just a little bit of nuance. So again, I loved it. For me, it was this incredible way to spend my 20s, basically at this Fortune 500 company, which is the University of Texas, focused on growth and development of student athletes. So you're there to win championships and graduate 4.0 students, and that is carried into the rest of my career, because while everyone else was in the boiler room making cold calls, doing the thing that we talked about, which is playing 40 years in the past, right? Because they're approaching sales like their manager did 20 years ago, and that manager did what their manager did 20 years before that, right? We've had that discussion. I was there in this incredible environment trying to figure out how to get the best out of people. And so I've sort of taken that forward. So if anybody ever asked me, well, what makes you different as a revenue leader in that particular capacity versus other? I said, look, I just have a different starting point and a different point of view of like what's important generally, not everybody, of course. And I think that also permeates into the culture and into the team. What are we about? About growth, development, and the process. And by the way, like, jamming somebody into a deal is not a thing. Like, what is that? I don't even understand what that is.
So if you were to give somebody advice, like a frontline sales leader that you're seeing them do it the old way, what sort of advice would you give them? How would you coach them?
I would first start by like what they focus on, ultimately. And again, a lot of coaches are famous for this. Are they focused on the process, on development, on growth, on trajectory, or are they focused on the scoreboard and on results? Like immediately it's a different starting point.
Yeah.
And if I had two sales leaders side by side and one's just staring at the scoreboard, beating the team over the head with the scoreboard, and the other one is focusing on progress, process, like skill building, like getting better every single day, like that person, that team is going to win.
Yeah.
So I would sort of start with what they focus on every day and what they choose to see, getting back to that and choose to cultivate. Outside of that, they have to be competent. Like if you're going to lead people, it's funny. I had somebody come to me who wanted to be a sales manager, a sales leader in one of my organizations. This is a person who's was an incredible Olympic athlete, was an entrepreneur, had run an organization. He's like, hey, I want to come be a sales leader. I said, no, you can't do that. Like, he's like, what do you mean? I was like, you need to start as an individual contributor. And he's like, why? But look, I've got all this set of experience. I'm like, what are you going to teach this team about selling? I was like, tell me that. Now there's a lot of things you could teach them and there's a lot of ways you could lead them. But again, now this is frontline management, right? Maybe not third line or so I'm like, you have to be able to contribute here, maybe participate with them, and again, there are coaches, for example, who can coach teams and very successfully have never kicked a ball before, for example. They're very rare and it can be done. But some of the best ones are the ones that can command some respect. So one of the things, if you said to me, some of the feedback I've gotten or the response that I see is like, well, how do you get a team to follow you and do the thing? It's like, they know that there's not a mile that I haven't walked in their shoes, and they can feel it and see it in the words coming out of my mouth, the actions that I take, the empathy that I have or don't have for the situation. Like they just know in their bones, like this is a person speaking from having been there, not someone. Now, it doesn't mean I have all the answers or I know everything. So there's something to that. So the other thing I would say is if that sales manager hasn't put in the time or the work to take the bullets and kind of, sharpen the iron of getting the hard nose and getting creative or overcoming things, I wonder how much they can contribute to the team, ultimately.
Yeah.
There's probably some limit to that, but
I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen at companies, people with really fancy MBAs getting promoted to roles and then they just crash and burn because they've never done the job and they just kind of assume that because they've done it in a spreadsheet, they can actually support the team.
Yeah.
And to your point, they just stare the numbers up and to the right and it doesn't create any value.
Well, to this person's credit, just to say he accepted
went and did it?
He accepted that outcome, went and did it. And I said, the other thing is when it's time for you to get promoted, if and when that time comes, it has to be obvious. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, everyone has to look around and go, yes, of course, that person. Because why does that have to be obvious? Not because it just makes my job easier. It's like whatever. It's because that means that you're already doing that next job before this job, which means you're already mentoring them, already coming to you. You're the person they want to follow. And so if that's not obvious, you're not getting the job.
I say the same thing, but I say it a little bit differently. I say do the job before you get the job. Like just assume that you're in the job and start doing it. I don't care about your title. I don't care about the org chart. Just operate at that level and it'll happen. But the other way I think about it too is as a leader, whenever I'm making a hiring decision, especially if I'm bringing in somebody from outside the organization, I always want them to be perceived as a gift to the organization. Like I think to myself, is this person a gift to the organization? And my first proof point is when somebody says, thank you. Like, oh, thank you for bringing this person. They are so awesome. Then I know that I made the right hire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So tell me the story. How did you make the transition from soccer coach at the University of Texas to tech sales?
I mean, I got to a place in coaching where I just felt like I didn't know if I was totally bought into the coaching lifestyle, into a career in coaching. It's very nomadic and not great on a family, nights, weekends, holidays. Like it just sort of became a thing where I loved the sport, but it'd been all that I'd ever done. And I was like, I think there's more out there for me to go do. And I also think it'll allow me to live my life slightly differently than the coaching lifestyle, which is extremely difficult. God bless all the coaches. And I love my coaches. And so I looked around Austin. I also fell in love with Austin, didn't want to leave Austin. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to be here, what am I going to do? Like, what should I do? And you look around the services industry, it's a capital, government agency, and then there's tech, really. And this is, you're talking, 2006, 2007, 2005. And so I also had the foresight, at least at that time, to go like, I should get involved in something that can be this like gift that keeps on giving. Like I sort of had this idea that a career would be, a set of gifts that would keep on giving somehow, like of opportunity, of growth, of whatever. And tech seemed to be that. And it's been that 100% in terms of Austin. The game keeps coming to us, more opportunity keeps coming here, and we keep growing, right? So So I sort of identified tech as the thing I wanted to do. Sales seemed like the most obvious thing in terms of applying the skill set that I had. But what wasn't obvious or easy is getting into a tech company that's growing and meaningful with even that background. And so this is where Brett comes in. So there's actually this, as the story goes, I went to one of my former players, Amber Quist. I don't know if you know Amber, but she's the CMO of High Hospitality. So I called her and I said, Amber, hey, I'm calling to make you some money. Call me back. Well, she thought that I was calling to have her come guest coach at some of the coaching sessions for these soccer clubs that I've been working with. And I would pay her some money to do that. I was like, no. I was like, you guys have a referral bonus at Bizarre Voice, right? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I want you to help me get in.
Brilliant. You were already selling.
Yeah, I was selling. Hey, I'm calling to make you some money. Call me back.
Yeah.
And so she introduced me to a recruiter there. They had an SDR job. And at the time I was like, this seems like I'm starting right at the very, very bottom. And I'd just done coaching and I'd run a nonprofit and I'd done some other stuff. And so that was just the mental model was like, do I have to start there? And I really want to start as an account executive.
Yeah.
The pay was a little higher and all the things, right? Of course. So I get into an interview with Michael Osborne, who's the CRO. And within 10 minutes, he's like, no, we got to talk to you about an account executive job, not an SDR job. That's fine. Just he saw the experience that I had. So he kind of was the first one to go, no, we got to find a place for you. He brought in another manager of the manufacturing brand team, Chad Bacchius, who I now work very closely with. Chad, sold me on the company and kind of helped me through the process. But my last gauntlet I had to run was, amongst the other ones, was to talk to Brett one-on-one. So I was in Brett's office because he's interviewing everybody who's joining the company.
No pressure.
This is the first 50 employees. He's like, Tony, I'm looking at your resume. I'm just telling you, like, at none of my companies would I have ever hired you or would I hire you? He's like, but I am seeing that you have this leadership capability. You've impressed the team. Like there's something here, but it's not obvious on paper. He's like, so I'm going to give you a chance. And he's like, you got 6 months. He's like, you're going to go on the SDR salary. And if after 6 months you prove it, we'll, raise you to whatever the compensation plan of an account executive and so on, all the rest of it. And so I was like, great, just give me a chance to get in. No problem. I'm going to come in and make it happen. And so I stressed, I picked up every sales book I could read. Chad, who was my manager, I parroted back every phrase or story I told, because I was like, this is how you sell, I guess.
Wow.
Right. So I just scrambled to kind of, and then there's an incredible team there and people and culture that props people up, gives people opportunity, recognizes great work. It's the other thing too, that we talked about cultivating and recognizing is, there's this phrase that's kind of, I think, become a bit of an icky one, which is like how you get visibility in a company.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's get visibility.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that? Well, at Bizarre Voice, it was people noticing people, and there's a difference.
Oh, I love that.
A culture of recognition. So if you did great work, people were going to know about it. So you didn't have to advocate for your own visibility, which is the icky part of it.
Yeah.
Right. This is people going, no, quarterly all hands, we're giving out awards for this stuff. Every week at the stand-up, we're highlighting this stuff. And then it became even a thing culturally with the sales team, as part of deals coming in and celebrating those deals, there was always the thank you section of who worked hardest to get the deals done. It was people who weren't in the sales organization. So that was the culture. So for somebody like me who had, let's say, enough talent to go around, for people to be able to see it and see it quickly because it was recognized and made visible, made my growth trajectory even faster, right? So I was putting in the work. The organization was finding ways to stand that work up.
That's cool.
And it just starts to snowball, right?
Yeah. I saw a lot of that at Dell. In fact, and most recently, one of my favorite awards that I would give out was, it was called the Ass Kicker Award, and it was voted on by my entire organization. And we would give out an award to the MVP every quarter, but it was voted on by the organization, and we'd buy them a pair of custom boots, like custom designed for them. And, sometimes it was a finance controller, sometimes it was somebody in customer support. And it was my favorite award by far to give out. And it was always super cool because people would wear the boots. And then it became like a status symbol because the boots were given to them in effect by their peers, which was really special.
Yeah. I love that. And I worked at a company that was in the recognition and reward space. And
that's right.
And you saw very clearly how important that could be. It can also get overused, overhyped, like you could start to recognize things that maybe aren't worth recognizing, if I could say that, but the reality is when done well and with the right intention, like it's pretty powerful in the way it can catapult people. And I had the benefit of that, right?
Yeah.
So
that was one of our near misses. Tony, it's wild. We've almost worked together a few times.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about how you take care of yourself.
Okay.
Because you are in phenomenal physical condition. It's something that you and I really relate on. And, it's not easy to make that transition from being an athlete to suddenly being in the corporate world, which can be sedentary. You're living on a plane, your schedule is upended, it's not your own, late night dinners with clients, heavy foods. How did you take care of yourself, or how do you take care of yourself?
Well, I didn't early on. Like my 30s was a disaster when it comes to my own personal health, like yo-yoing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I like in my early 20s, right? I was at that point basically a college athlete and professional athlete, and then a coach for most of my 20s. And so, spending a lot of time on the weight room or in the fields, out in the fields. But once I got into the tech world, like I became consumed with making this transition and being successful at this transition, and let a lot of that personal health go. On the plane all the time, dinners with clients, like all the things, right?
Yeah.
And so as I was turning 40, as it can happen for some people, for me, it was a little more real than maybe other folks are a little more like, whatever, it's just a number. But I was like, no, I feel like this is a thing. Like I'm turning 40. And I actually felt like if I don't hit this with the right momentum, I need momentum to carry me to 50. And I gotta turn the momentum in my favor in terms of my habits and what I was doing. And I also saw my performance waning, frankly. Like I'd gone in my late 30s from, having that run at Bizarre Voice to then being first time VP CRO at a very intense early stage startup that was growing very fast. So I sort of realized that like I needed to figure this out because my performance was struggling. Even things that I never had struggled with, like some anxiety on the weekends and things like just not being able to deal with the stress of the situation as well as I would want to. And so I knew enough to know, okay, it's time for me to get my body right, get my mind right, like getting it. Plus, I also believe that, look, as a leader of people, I have a responsibility in how I show up.
Yeah.
And so
you're modeling.
I'm modeling, right? And so what is this? And I had this, I tell this story. I don't know this person, so I guess I could say this, but let's just say it this way. There was a coach, a collegiate coach of a team that I'm a big fan of, who is in the worst condition ever. And I would see these like pregame and halftime interviews with this coach, like huffing and puffing, just struggling because like not in great shape. I was like, how does this person motivate anybody to leave the locker room and go hit somebody?
Yeah. If this is what he looks
this
like.
is what it looks and sounds like. Now look, there may be other health issues going on, other things. So I wouldn't want to judge. But the point is, I do think that to inspire a team, like how you show up matters. And it doesn't mean you have to be an Ironman or have 12% body fat or whatever. But I do think it means that people see that you're in a condition to lead, you know, and also that you're doing the things that they want to do. So like, again, we talked about the modeling, like I want people to want to be a CEO. I want them to want to be the CRO. I want them to want the responsibility to lead and help other people. But if I can't carry it well, if my health is struggling, my family's struggling, why would they want that job?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And again, I do see that's part of my role. So anyway, it sort of starts with that intention. So my intention was, I'm not going to be able to perform at the level I want if I don't turn this around. Maybe I had that luxury when I was younger, but I was getting older. I also knew that I needed to get a trajectory going, which is part of that. We talked about the starting point, and then if I really wanted to lead at the highest level, I had to figure it out. So it started with that intention. And then I put the best people around the table. I kind of joke that I have this like Formula One pit crew of people. Like I've got.
You're not the first person to say this on this podcast. Okay, talk about it.
No, I mean, I've got I've got a performance coach, like I've got a therapist, I've got a chiropractor, I've got the massage therapist, I've got the whole, the whole stable. And so, and it's really to keep this car going around the track and not blowing out a tire or setting the engine on fire. So I do think it also starts with putting the right resources and also personal education around it. So, but again, I'm approaching it like an athlete, like a coach of a team. I'm going to get the right, like what I'm doing right now in my company. I just brought an advisor onto our company who I love, who's going to help us in a massive way. And that's part of just getting the right people around the table to help support where we're trying to go. So yeah, again, it's important to me. And then also I haven't talked about, like, even with my kids and my family, like when I'm there with them, I need to have the energy to be there with them.
Yeah.
And also, what are my daughters going to see in terms of how dad approaches life or, whatever. Now, the biggest thing around all of this is I just don't miss, so this is the athlete in me. Like I am working out 5 or 6 days a week. I don't miss.
What does that mean to you? I don't miss.
I don't miss. I go every single, whether I feel like it or not, whether I'm tired or not.
Yeah.
Today I got 20 minutes in of any real work, but I got something in and I just don't miss. And so to me, that keeps the momentum going.
Yeah.
But it also forces me with that mentality of like, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
And so I don't miss just means like I have a commitment to myself that at least 5 days a week, I actually track to try to hit 250 workouts a year. I'm going to be in the gym for at least 30 minutes doing something rigorous.
Yeah.
Rigorous enough, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't miss.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you on this because you just suffered a pretty significant injury.
Yeah. And I'm on track to do more workouts in a year than I've done in the last decade.
Of course you were going to say this. But
I'm not kidding.
You tore your quad.
Yeah.
And I remember because I reached out to you not knowing that it had happened, and you were kind of down about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was devastated. I was destroyed.
Yeah. And I was like, oof, I've never seen Tony like this. Like, it was like dark Tony.
I was in a dark place.
What happened?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, I was in probably what was feeling like the best shape of my life in a sense, going into the end of 2024, the end of last year. I started the company in earnest, let's say in July, loving what I was doing, firing on all cylinders on all things, and then I'm getting this, I could see though I was getting a bit on like highway hypnosis, moving a bit too fast, a bit too quick, thing to thing, not paying attention. So much so that the day before I was in Fredericksburg visiting a friend's ranch. And as I was leaving the town, I was scrambling to get a coffee before I got on the road to try to get home in time for dinner. And I accidentally like rolled a stop sign. I thought it was a 4-way stop, but it was a 2-way stop.
Oh shit.
And so I rolled it, and then I went and I almost caused this massive car accident. Didn't happen, thank God. The person who avoided me has some skill. I want to talk about Formula One driving skills, like incredible skills. But it was this little moment where I was moving too fast, rolling a thing. And that was the day before. You even
got a warning signal.
I got a warning signal, and there were probably a few of them. And then the next day I was in the gym again, a little rushed because I don't miss, and I was going to get my thing in. And I was doing a box jump, and it was, a box where I'd put on an extra 6 inches with a foam pad that Velcros on. I was like, I turned 49 in a week, and I haven't done this height in a while. And let me just see if I'm still feeling it, like one of those moments. And I was a bit in a rush, supersetting some things, and I landed on top of the box, but the Velcro came loose and slipped out. My foot got cut under me, and I went in full flexion with my heel touching my ass backwards and exploded my quad, basically ruptured my quad tendon. So it went down. I was like, this is not good. I know this is not good because I've been here before. And
You've ruptured your quad before?
Well, I've tore my LCL, my T-band, and my hamstring all off the bone, and my ACL on the same knee. This is 20 years ago playing soccer.
Oh, we need to have a conversation about this, by the way. Keep going. Okay.
Well, so this is another moment, same knee. The universe has something out for my right knee, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, went down. I had a friend with me there that took me to the house, and it just started this journey of the first hour I was in shock. And then after that, when that sort of wore off, I was in a lot of pain. Texting with doctors, part of the Formula One team, basically got the diagnosis without an MRI or anything just because of the symptoms. But I started to do this heavy research on pro athletes who have had this injury and how they come back. But I was devastated for 2 reasons. One, I'd put so much work in the last decade to essentially set up my 50s and 60s for what I wanted them to be and this vision of what I was going to do. Heaven Stairmaster in Aspen, up the Ute Rock and everything else that I was going to be doing. And in a moment, it felt like that was all ripped away. The other thing was I highly identify with being an athlete and being athletic in a sense of when I feel athletic, when I feel good physically, I just operate at a whole different level mentally. In that moment, it was like a part of me had died and gone away, the athlete in me. Yeah. And it's funny, someone had suggested I read the Aaron Rodgers documentary, which had come out when he'd ruptured his Achilles tendon. Of which we have a common friend who just did that, as you probably heard.
I just heard this morning.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have to call him.
Yeah. So I remember watching the documentary in the first couple of days after this happened, and Aaron Rodgers had said that he felt like there was a mourning, like a part of him had died when this significant of an injury happens, because you don't know if you're ever going to come back the same. So that old you won't be there. And it's interesting because my therapist had said to me, because I was in the state of mind of will I ever be my old me, my old self?
Yeah.
Like
I can relate to that.
I was like,
it's called a dark night of the soul, my friend.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from?
It's actually in the Buddhist faith.
Okay.
It's identity loss, egoic death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had my own mini version of that. It's probably not as intense as it can be in certain situations.
Yeah.
And I had just started the company. We were going through a fundraise. like all of the things were happening and I needed full energy, full Tony, to
And you
go
got
after
stopped
that.
dead in
I
your
got stopped
tracks.
dead in my tracks. So the thing that through that is it took me about 3 or 4 weeks to feel like, um, it probably should have happened quicker, but for me, it was devastating enough that that whole process and journey of the dark night that it took me a couple of weeks to sort of feel like, but it took even a bit longer. So a couple of things that kind of unearthed with my conversation with my therapist. First of all, he said to me is, no part of Tony has changed. Everything that makes you
You're still here.
is still here, and you're still got all your faculties and all of the things. So like, get over it. I was like, okay, thank you. I needed to hear that. Like, I'm not actually a different human or person. I just have a ruptured quad. And so that was the first part. The second part was I kind of lost my fizz, so if this was Coke, like I was some flat Coke,
A friend of mine calls it the GER factor. You lost your GER.
And that scared me.
Yeah.
Because like I operate with that.
Yeah, that's your energy.
That carbonation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was wondering when. I didn't really question if it would come back, but I was questioning when, because I needed every bit of it I could get as soon as I could get it. Again, I'm trying to build a company, be there for my family, do all the things.
That's super scary.
Yeah. So, looking back on it, what I will say is whenever you have something extreme like this kind of happen, you hear everyone else's stories because that's when they come out, because they share their own or their friend or whatever. And then you realize, you know what? I'm going to take my version of this because it ain't that bad, and I talked to, so the first day I was in the gym 72 hours after surgery doing all contralateral training and just
my God.
like back in the gym, because again, it just made me feel better to move my body and be in there. But I saw this friend in there who said, I was telling about the injury, and he said, well, sorry to hear that, but hey, by the way, I just got diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I thought, got it.
That's the message.
Yeah. I was like, okay, like this, I'll put this in perspective,
Yeah.
So again, carbonation's back, quad is mostly back. But mostly what it taught me in the end of the day, because there's a lesson of all of this. And of course you look for that bright side or those lessons. But I think at the end of the day, I finally came to terms with what it means to give up control. Like when you can't really control the outcome. Because that was the scariest part about this injury is if you do the research on it and you read about it, you can come back 65%, you can come back 80%, you can come back 95 or 100%.
Whoa.
There's a big range of how well you are physically relative to what you were. And that's what scared me the most, because that has implications around the things I thought I would want to be doing with my kids, skiing on spring breaks or climbing in the mountains or whatnot. So I had to give up. I couldn't control that.
You had to let go of it.
I had to do all the things I could do.
Yeah.
Hyperbaric chamber, supplementation, yada, yada, yada. But in the end, it is going to be what it's going to be.
Damn.
And so that was the hardest part, because you probably feel that from time to time, although you've probably evolved faster in that than I did. But that is part of how we succeed, is trying to control the conditions.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Kind of wrap our arms around it, wrestle it to the ground,
Yeah. But I always say, like, if you let life surprise you, sometimes it exceeds your expectations. Like, we're so busy controlling everything, Tony, but if we just would let go for a second, we might be surprised. Like, there's no way that your 18-year-old self at Notre Dame could have predicted where you are right now. There's no way.
Yeah.
But if you would have controlled everything from the moment you were 18, you might have had a lesser outcome.
Yeah.
Because you didn't even know it was possible.
Well, I'll tell you, so one of my favorite people is, and let's call it lecturers, is Alan Watts to listen to. Maybe you and I have talked about it some. He's credited for in the 70s and 80s bringing, Eastern philosophy to the West and talking about it, philosopher, theologian. But one of the concepts that he talks a lot about in his lectures is the concept of wu-wei, which is often translated as the art of not trying or art of not forcing. But really it's about, for me, it's something that I think on and meditate on a lot is how do you let what's supposed to happen. And if you think about this at the highest level from a revenue organization, let's say driving it, is you are driving into an end of quarter. Everyone starts gripping harder. Deals start flying. Customers start getting pressured. The adrenaline's flowing, and you make the number. The 5 deals came in that needed to come in, but nobody talks about the 10 or 15 deals that went away that are coming back. They put them in the slip category. Oh, these deals slipped. And then for the next board meeting or two, you talk about the deals that slipped that for some reason aren't coming back. It's because you just pushed away all of those customers and all of that business in squeezing so hard to try to control this thing. And that actually keeps me up at night, is not the fact that we made the number, didn't make the number. It's the business that we left on the table and the customers that we scared away because of that energy,
Yeah.
right? So when you think about this, I think what you're kind of highlighting is with this controlling energy, it's not actually about what you got. Maybe some of it got me some of what I've got, if that's even worth anything really in the grand scheme of things. But what did I not see?
Totally.
What did I leave on the
Yeah.
table? You know, what path did I not take
Yeah.
as a result of gripping so hard?
I think about that all the time. I think about that all the time. And I actually think I probably would 10x where I am right now.
I
Looking
mean,
back at,
that's worth thinking about.
yeah, some of the things I held on to too tightly.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm glad you're healed. You look amazing.
thank
So
you.
clearly, you know, you've done your work. Before we go, I think it's really important that we talk about you as a dad and husband. So how does all this shape how you parent and how you show up in your family?
Mostly for me, and I don't know if I get this balance right. I have friends who debate each other on who's the best dad or not the best. I never participate in that conversation because I have no idea, like in the grand scheme
Even
of
your
things.
friends are competitive about it. Tony,
I love when they start having I love when they start having those conversations, and I'm like, I have no idea. I hope to God, like, you know, it all just works out. I don't get my kids into therapy, but at the end of the day, I just try to approach it in the same way, which is my job is to try to set the conditions. My job is to try to focus on the right things that need to be focused on. So not the scoreboard, but the process and the journey, and be the model for them that I need to be. But my job is not to force it, not to control it, you know, that like that outcome. And so I'm very comfortable in that zone, but I you know, the risk is that maybe I don't squeeze hard enough in some areas that maybe should or need more control. But I try to, you know, one of the things that I got a text from somebody, this would have been now maybe a week or two ago, that got me emotional for like a good day and a half every time I reread the text. But basically, can I read you a little piece of this text?
Yeah, I would love it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, please share.
So, and I do really appreciate all of your help and guidance. You've really helped me to keep the momentum going and to gain confidence. It's crazy what having every time I read it, what having one person that truly just believes in you and your potential can do. I'm hoping that soon I can contribute back to you. But in the meantime, I really appreciate everything you contribute to my life. So if I said all that out loud. So the point is, you realize how many people don't have someone in their life that believes in them. It's a thing. So as I think about being a parent, that's the number one thing.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. You're making me emotional.
I know. Sorry. But that was one of the coolest texts,
yeah.
because if we could all be that person for each other when that
Right.
time is needed, you know, what's possible. And then we talked earlier about maybe what's holding organizations back from growth. I think it's a belief.
I totally agree.
And it's a belief that the people can get it done, not just the leadership, not just those in charge, not just the smartest ones, but actually everyone can make a contribution. And if I could share on this while we're on that topic, I told you I got really moved by the executive director, Cliff Red,
yeah.
who passed away a couple of months ago. And he was the executive director at a time where I was at the Long Center on the board of trustees and part of the corporate council, and co-founded a young professionals organization with a friend. And so he had a vision that thousands of people in Austin would contribute to building the Long Center and raising that funds. And he wanted us to build a young professionals organization to get young professionals involved in the arts. So we did that. And this would have been in like 2006, 2007, and had this opportunity at his memorial to reflect on his life. Obviously, people said all kinds of kind words and amazing things. And the mic went around at the end of the memorial, and it was a little unexpected for me because I didn't expect that. I expected to just show up and listen and, you know, be moved and be grateful. But I really wanted to say something because of the impact he had on my life and on all the people who got to contribute as part of that group. And I couldn't find the words in the moment, so I wrote it down after and then sent it out to a group of the people that were there, that were part of this group, Catalyst 8. But one of the biggest gifts that he gave as a leader was not only establishing a vision for what he thought should happen and needs to happen, which in this case was to get as many people in the community contributing to this thing as possible, which was the right vision, rather than a few families writing big checks. He also gave us the resources to get it done. So his staff, the money from the Long Center, so we could go cultivate this group. And then he let us run. I mean, he let us do it.
Yeah.
He didn't get in the way. And we did it our way. We're like, no, we know how to inspire this group of 25 to 45-year-olds to get involved. We got this. He's like, you got this, right? And so we all now get to look back on it and be like, we did it. And we did it together, right?
Yeah.
But had all the decisions come from the top or none of that agency kind of given to the group, we would have been robbed of the contribution, actually.
Yeah.
We would have been just doing the work, but not actually feeling like we made the contribution. So I think that's a very cool kind of gift to give. And I think for my kids and being a father, it's like, can I be that person who can be there for them and believe in them and give them the resources and let them fly, but not think that I have all the answers or I know how it should be done, or because I wanted things this way, or I didn't get these things, they should have or be that way or whatever. And there are plenty of parents who don't do it that way, right? Of course.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that's kind of how I think about it.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay. So I want you to leave us with some words of wisdom. I'm going to be totally selfish.
Okay.
My son is a senior at ASU. He's about to graduate. What advice do you have for him as he starts his career?
I don't know his personality or what advice he actually needs or doesn't need, or what nudge would be helpful, but I'll just go for it. Like go for it. I think that's one of the best things that, look, you've done that your whole career. You've gone for the opportunities that you've taken that you could have just conveniently shied away from and not went for it. Every single one, essentially, because they're putting you on stage. They're giving you a ton of responsibility. More criticism will come than praise in any of it. So I'm sure he's cut from that cloth and he will do that. But I think the biggest risk is that you play it too safe or you don't go for it. Probably with that comes some amount of regret potentially, but yeah, just go for it.
I love that. And he is a little mini Tony, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tony, I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for setting all of this up. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
making this podcast possible. And
Thank you for having me.
being my friend.
Yeah. Thank you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank y'all for listening today. If you're so inclined, please follow, subscribe, download, share, all of the things so that we can keep going. We appreciate your support so much. If you're interested in learning more, go to thecoeffect.co.